Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
Bright Like a Supernova by BillyBobGoat. I'm going to become king of the pirates. No, I'll be even bigger. Even if it's just for a moment, I'll be greater than Roger ever was. But what shines brighter than a star? Adios.
Chapter 1. Romance dawned. The day had arrived when the notorious king of pirates, Gold Roger, was to be executed. People had flocked from all corners of the world to witness the final moments of the man who had conquered the 6 seas, reached the last island of the Grand Line, and claimed the ultimate treasure. They watched in awe as the shackled pirate calmly approached the scaffold where he would meet his demise. As he walked, murmurs rippled through the crowd. What kind of man would walk to his own death after achieving so much? Could he not summon the strength to make a run for it? But despite their questions, the Pirate King remained resolute and undaunted. However, one brazen individual's curiosity would alter the course of history. "Oi, Pirate King!" a voice called out. "Where did you stash all that legendary treasure you found, the One Piece?" Roger couldn't help but chuckle at the question. "Ha, you can have it if you can find it. My treasure is yours for the taking, but you'll have to search the whole world first." An angry guard immediately barked, "Silence, you don't deserve a final word, S." But the Pirate King was unfazed. "Find everything the world has to offer there," he declared with a grin. The sound of swords being drawn drowned out the murmurs of the crowd, and the cheers of the onlookers marked the dawn of a new era, the age of the great pirates. Years had passed since the execution of the Pirate King, and a new generation had begun to make their mark on the world. In a lush forest, a young boy perched on a tree branch, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble. Suddenly, he caught sight of a Jolly Roger flag fluttering in the distance. "I spy with my little eye, a Jolly Roger," he exclaimed to the wildlife and fauna he had befriended thanks to his grandfather's training. With a quick snack of whatever fruit he had left, the boy leapt from the branch and dashed towards the source of the disturbance. "What a bunch of SBAG pirates," he muttered to his primate companions. "Don't they know better than to come to my turf?" The primates chattered in agreement, egging on the young boy to teach the intruders a lesson. "I'll show them who's boss," the boy declared, sprinting back to his hometown of Fuchsia, completely unaware of how the encounter with the scrub pirates would change his life forever. As news spread throughout the town, even the green-haired bartender and the aging mayor couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. This time, however, it wasn't for the reasons one might expect. Normally, Luffy, along with a few adults and occasionally Garp, manages to drive off any pirates or bandits attempting to make Fuchsia their base. But this situation is different, Makino reflected, deep in thought. Whoop Slap, determined to de-escalate the situation and protect their village, muttered to himself, "Damn it. The hooligans are none other than the Red Hair Pirates. We have to find Luffy before he ends up seriously hurt." Yet, he couldn't shake off the growing sense of concern. Suddenly, a loud voice rang through the air, accompanied by the sound of approaching footsteps. The entire group stood frozen in shock and horror as the worst-case scenario began to unfold before their eyes. The crew aboard the ship turned their attention towards the voice, only to find a young girl with unusually colored hair who had responded defiantly. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone seething with anger. "You guys are pirates. I can tell by the flag," the girl exclaimed. "What does it matter if we are? If you have any complaints, address them to me. I am the captain's daughter, after all," she retorted. "Really? Then tell your dad to come out here so I can teach him a lesson?" A brief moment of silence hung over Fuchsia's port until a burst of raucous laughter erupted from the ship's deck. "Did you hear that? Ha, 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 ha. Those are fighting words. My money's on the kid," chortled members of the crew. The 2 children, however, failed to see the humor in the situation. "Stop laughing at me," an enraged Luffy screamed. "Who do you think you are? Shanks would never even acknowledge you." Uda's outburst was abruptly interrupted as a hand was placed on her shoulder. "Now, listen, Uda. Let's not be mean. The sheriff is just doing his job, isn't that right, sir?" The man addressed Luffy. "Damn right, I am. My gramps taught me that you pirates bring nothing but trouble. How about this? If you can defeat me in a fight, my crew and I will leave and never return. But if I win, this place will be our home for." Shanks paused, turning to face a man with a cigarette in his mouth and dark hair pulled back into a ponytail. They exchanged whispers before Shanks continued, "For the next year, how does that sound?" "You're on, redhead," declared Luffy, determination gleaming in his eyes. "Oh, how?" Luffy managed to gasp out, completely astounded. For the past 3.5 hours, he had thrown everything he had at his opponent, but every single attack was effortlessly blocked or deflected. Luffy was mentally and physically drained, while the stranger in the straw hat appeared completely unfazed, even yawning in boredom. "This has been quite amusing, but it's clear that I've won. Why don't we just call it a day?" Shanks suggested, noticing Luffy's face turning red and tears welling up in his eyes. Hey, don't cry." "I ain't crying," Luffy interrupted, his voice trembling with a mix of frustration and embarrassment. The awkwardness in the air was palpable, leaving everyone who was watching feeling uncomfortable. Uda couldn't help but think, this is incredibly humiliating to witness. But, earlier in the fight, I could barely follow his movements. And that kid's fighting style and strength are almost animalistic. Was he raised by wild beasts or something? Even the crew members seemed surprised by his abilities, and I'm sure Shanks was caught off guard too. "Do you want some ice cream and candy? I'll get more for you," Shanks quickly offered, attempting to console the young boy. Really?" Luffy sniffled, his tears beginning to subside. "Of course, and I'll throw in some soda as well," Shanks chimed in, trying to lighten the mood. "MK," Luffy responded glumly, "and just so you know, since I won, I'll be staying here," Shanks continued. "Alright," Luffy replied, his voice filled with disappointment. "You know," Shanks paused, contemplating his words, "because I'll be staying, we could always have a rematch in the future." "Really?" Luffy exclaimed suddenly, causing Shanks to flinch in surprise. "Of course, yeah. YAHOOO, thank you, Mr. Luffy interrupted, brimming with newfound determination. "I'm going to train hard and become really strong, so I can beat you one day." "Hey, the name's Shanks, not Mr. Shanks corrected with a warm smile, appreciating Luffy's enthusiasm. Oh, so much had transpired in the almost year since their first encounter. The townspeople had grown accustomed to having the pirates around, including Luffy and his crew. While Luffy continued his daily training sessions with Shanks, he also engaged in peculiar conversations, such as pondering whether mermaids could poop. Despite the sorrow of losing his friend Uda, Luffy still managed to find moments of joy in life. On this particular day, the crew was gathered at Makino's bar, enjoying a leisurely time. Luffy's boisterous laughter filled the air, and even Shanks seemed to be in high spirits, despite their ongoing sparring sessions. However, their tranquility was abruptly interrupted when the bar's door was kicked open with a resounding slam, causing one of the doors to fall off its hinges. Higuma the bandit and his lackeys barged into the establishment, startling everyone inside. It wasn't until Higuma introduced himself that the realization of who he was struck the crowd. "I could smell the stench of rotten fish as soon as I walked in here. Damn pirates." "Oi, lady, my men and I need some strong alcohol to distract Ors," Higuma demanded. "I'm sorry, but the other customers have already emptied the bar," Makino replied. Veins bulged on the bandit leader's forehead. Shanks stepped forward, attempting to defuse the situation. "I apologize for the inconvenience, Makino. I was actually planning to enjoy the drinks, but you can have them instead. It's on the house." Higuma abruptly smashed the bottle into Shanks' face, cutting him off. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'm Higuma the bear. I've killed over 50 losers like you and garnered a bounty of 8 million berries," Higuma sneered, waiting for a reaction from Shanks. "I apologize for the mess, Makino," Shanks muttered. "I'll take care of it," Makino assured him. No, it's fine," Shanks attempted to respond. But Higuma slashed once more, this time aiming at the table. "Here's something extra for you, since you seem to love cleaning so much," Higuma taunted. "I've had enough. I'm sick of the stench of dead fish and cowards. It's hurting my nose." "Shanks, are you okay?" Makino exclaimed. But to her surprise, Shanks burst into laughter, and the rest of the crew followed suit, either teasing Shanks or commenting on Higuma's insults. Once again, the child in their midst failed to find the situation amusing. Luffy's anger flared. "What's wrong with you, Shanks? How could you just stand there and let that guy bully you?" Shanks shrugged. "It wasn't that serious, Luffy, nobody got hurt." "But you're so strong, how could you lose to someone like him?" Luffy's disbelief was evident. Shanks sighed. "I didn't lose, Luffy, then how did you win?" "It's hard to explain, but I stayed positive," Shanks said, almost to himself. Luffy looked perplexed. "What do you mean?" "Well, Luffy, life is full of obstacles that can make you feel sad and miserable. But true strength comes from how you react to those obstacles and how you help others during their lowest points. You can't simply punch away your sadness, but if you can bounce back, accept it, improve, and move on, then you've achieved victory." Luffy fell silent for a moment before nodding slowly. "I think I'm starting to understand." Shanks smiled. "It's a lesson that has helped me a lot over the years," he added with a chuckle. Although Luffy couldn't fully grasp that last part, he was grateful to have learned something valuable from Shanks. "Oh, you'll eventually get it. Now then, with that settled, let's—" Shanks was interrupted by his sudden realization. He walked toward a chest resting on the counter, only to find it wide open and its contents missing. Shanks quickly turned to his crew and exclaimed, "It's gone." For a brief moment, the crew was bewildered, until they noticed what had caught their captain's attention, a wide-open chest. "What do you mean it's no longer there?" Lucky Roo, a large and rotund pirate, reacted with shock and horror. "We went through so much trouble to obtain that fruit, and now you're telling me it's gone?" The news left the entire crew in a state of restlessness. "I've been keeping an eye on it all this time. The only people who came close were Makino and—" Shanks froze as realization dawned on him. "Hey, Luffy." Shanks turned to face a frightened Luffy. Luffy had never seen the red hair pirates in such a panicked state before, nor had Makino. "Did you happen to eat a gross fruit?" Shanks asked, his tone catching Luffy off guard. It felt as if Luffy had committed a grave offense. "Yeah, it looked really weird. Was it that important?" Luffy asked Shanks in a low voice, feeling the weight of the situation. "Huh? Yes, it was," the entire crew affirmed, except for their captain. "Spit it out right now, you idiot." Shanks grabbed Luffy's legs and shook him upside down. "Why? Was it poisonous or something?" "That was a devil fruit. Those who consume a devil fruit are despised by the sea and lose their ability to swim." "Eh? No way. If you weren't an anchor before, you certainly are now." Shanks scolded Luffy for the rest of the day. Oh. Luffy strolled aimlessly through the town, his mind preoccupied with the newfound power he had gained from consuming the devil fruit. Shanks and his crew had set sail on another adventure, leaving Luffy to his own devices. He couldn't help but feel a bit frustrated at his lack of progress in understanding his new ability. 4 different types of devil fruits. Luffy muttered to himself, trying to recall what Shanks had told him. "And I ate one that falls into the outlier category. The Pyro fruit." The name sounded cool, but Luffy couldn't help but feel a bit overwhelmed by the complex abilities of his fruit. Creating and controlling heat, and disassembling and reassembling things. Luffy remembered Shanks' explanation that he could break anything and fix anything with his fruit. He decided to try his hand at fixing the door of the nearby bar but found himself at a loss as to how to activate his powers. Frustrated, he trudged into the empty bar and slumped down on the counter. "This sucks," Luffy groaned, resting his chin in his hands. "I don't even know what to do with this devil fruit. And now I can't even swim." He let out a deep sigh, feeling trapped and helpless. "What's the matter, Luffy?" Makino inquired. "I can't figure out this dumb fruit." Shanks and his crew left. "And they all probably hate me," the bartender said, clearly perplexed. "What do you mean? You recall what they said? We worked so hard to get that fruit, and I ended up eating it." "Well, they forgave you anyway, so don't get too worked up about it." "But still, they were probably just worried about who would take it," Makino explained to Luffy. "Devil fruits are incredibly powerful, and some people in the world have used their abilities for evil. They probably didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, and if anything, they were relieved you ate it." Luffy furrowed his brow. "But what about when Shanks yelled at me? What if they really wanted it?" Makino shook her head. "No, Shanks knew you wanted to sail someday, and losing your ability to swim can make that journey difficult. And if they wanted to eat it, they would have done so before you ever had the chance. Luffy felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had been feeling guilty about eating the fruit, but talking with Makino helped ease some of that burden. Still, he couldn't help but wonder what Shanks and his crew had gone through to obtain the fruit. It's just, I can't imagine what they did to get that fruit, Luffy said, his expression clouded with concern. Makino placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Don't worry about that, Luffy. What's important is what you do with the power you have now. She smiled at him, and Luffy felt his mood lift. Yeah, you're right, Luffy said, grinning back at her. I'm gonna become the Pirate King with this power. Makino laughed, happy to see Luffy in good spirits. That is until they both heard a familiar slam from the bar's entrance. Oh, the Red Hair Pirates were returning to Fuchsia Village after a long and grueling journey. They were tired and eager to rest, but as they approached the shore, they noticed something strange. Where is everyone? Shanks asked, looking around at the deserted port. His crewmates shrugged, equally confused. Normally, the people of Fuchsia would be waiting to greet them and help unload their supplies. But today, the port was eerily quiet. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, causing the pirates to jump in alarm. Aj! The young boy's voice echoed through the village. Oh, wait, what was that? Raise your voice, I can't hear you over all the yelling. Higuma, the bandit, took out the blade he'd just sunk right under Luffy's left eye. Ha ha, Luffy exclaimed, trying to catch his breath after all the screaming and pain. Luffy, Makino screamed, get away from him you bastard, but was restrained by the townspeople so she didn't hurt herself. Sit down, whore, I'm going to teach this kid a lesson. Repeat what you said. I said. Luffy began to smile shakily. Fr. Shanks is a million times the man you are. And regardless of what you do, nothing can ever change that. Even if you kill me. Alright then, stop. Everyone fell silent as everyone turned to face Whoop Slap. He's just a kid, he pleaded, on his hands and knees. We'll give you all the money and alcohol you want, but please spare him. Higuma, the bandit leader, chuckled sadistically. It's too late for the brat, he sneered, drawing his flintlock and pointing it at Luffy. There are some actions you just can't let slide. But then, a voice interrupted them. I couldn't agree more. All eyes turned to see Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates standing at the entrance. I was wondering why no one had shown up, he said, looking at the bandits and the severely injured Luffy. Hello, Luffy. Shanks greeted him with a smile. You're a lot stronger than this, so why did you let a bunch of bandits beat you up? Because I wanted to fight just like you, Luffy replied with a smug grin. I wanted to win without having to throw a punch, and I did. For the most part, these guys are pathetic. Shanks couldn't help but feel proud of the kid, though he also wondered if he should be mad at himself for setting such a bad example. But before he could dwell on it, Higuma and his goons raised their weapons. Shut up! Higuma shouted. I'm going to kill you all after the kid. Yeah, wait your turn, one of the bandits retorted. Shanks remained calm, but his crew was ready for a fight. Are you ready to put your life on the line now that you've all drawn your weapons and declared your intention to fight? He asked, his eyes scanning the room. Huh? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? The nameless bandit was cut off when Lucky Roo shot him in the head. Everyone was taken aback by the speed and lack of hesitation that had just been displayed. What kind of crew are you? One of them exclaimed. That's strange. I don't think we resemble nuns. Do we? First Mate Ben Beckman makes a sarcastic remark. What do you expect, in all seriousness? We're a crew of pirates. We don't follow the rules. This was none of your business. Higuma spat. The hell's not, Shanks yelled, his anger rising. Listen, you can insult me, throw food at me, pour your drinks on me, and even spit on me and not give a rat's ass about it. But good reason or not, nobody hurts a friend of mine. Luffy's eyes widened at the word, friend, and he couldn't help but feel touched by Shanks' words. Wow, that was really touching. I've realized my mistake and will now turn myself in. Not. Kill them, boys. A band of bandits charges at the pirates. Beckman steps forward without missing a beat or saying a word, and in 10 seconds single-handedly defeats all the bandits without even blinking. What? Was all Higuma could say. If you really want to beat us, bring a fleet of battleships and a couple of vice admirals. He said with a smirk, though we have beaten worse so. Wow, he's so powerful. And he isn't even the captain. Has Shanks been holding back when we've been sparing? I was so sure I was getting stronger. Was all Luffy could think about. Higuma, on the other hand, is thinking about other things. Hey, it was T the kid who started it, but isn't there a bounty on your head? If I recall correctly, it was $8 million. Shanks put a stop to any peace talks between the bandit and the pirate. Eek. Higuma quickly threw a smoke bomb to cover his escape. Oh no, I let them get away, we have to save Luffy. Don't worry, Captain. We'll track them down, Lucky Roo told his captain to calm down. He's right, they couldn't have gone very far. Beckman chimed in. The red hair pirates were not to be underestimated. Oh, ha. Nobody expects a mountain bandit to flee to the sea, ha. Higuma spoke with the confidence and bravado of a lottery winner. Now that we're away, I don't need a hostage slowing me down. I'm not gonna let you get away that easily, you. Higuma kicked Luffy off the boat, cutting him off. Luffy's mind flashed back to the events that had led up to this point. They were so pitiful. I broke a bottle over his head and he didn't even bother to stand up for himself. What a, ha. To be honest, I was tempted to murder the whelp. Cowards like him make me sick. Luffy, are you all right? A concerned Makino inquires of Luffy. I'm all right. They're just being mean and don't know what they're talking about. Shanks and his crew are the best guys I've ever met. Nothing they say will ever change that fact. Luffy was beginning to tear up, but he didn't bother starting a fight. He even had a broad grin on his face. Makino was extremely proud of Luffy's maturity. Shanks' words must have hit him hard, Makino thought as he patted the young boy's head. Hello, lady. Makina and Luffy shifted their gaze to Higuma. Why don't you stop letting pussies like him around here, and start treating some real men? Well, regardless of their personality, all clients are good for business, Makino responded nervously. I can't argue with logic like that. You're a real beauty, aren't you? Higuma stood up and began walking toward her. I appreciate the compliment. Makino's heart beat faster with each step he took, and her speech became shakier. So you've got a kid? Higuma looked down at Luffy. I don't mind. He grabbed Makino's wrist and pulled her close. I'll give you a couple more if you like the tykes so much. Makino would have passed out from fear right there if she hadn't been more afraid of what they might do to her unconscious body. Luffy smacked Higuma across the face, knocking him to the ground. Ah! What the fuck is going on? Higuma screamed in agony. Never mess with Makino. Can't you see that you're causing her? Bang! The sound of a gunshot rang out throughout the bar. Luffy looked down to see a hole in his t-shirt with blood starting to stain it. Luffy! Makino leapt over the counter and charged at Luffy. However, Luffy had no intention of dying anytime soon. He caught himself, landed on his feet, and threw the chair he was sitting on at the shooter like it was a baseball. You filthy monkey bandits want some, sparked a fight between the bandits and a single child. A brawl in which said kid wore a Cheshire grin until the bitter end. His splash in the water jolted him out of his flashback. Ah. Ha. Sayonara, kid. Higuma kept laughing until the water behind him erupted due to the appearance of the local sea king. Wait. Yaw. His scream was muffled by the Sea King's closing jaw. Fortunately for Luffy, some boat scraps fell near him, and in his desperation, he used the disassembling and reassembling aspect of his powers to construct a platform large enough to hold him. Unfortunately, the Sea King turned its attention to him. Why? Somebody, please help me, why? Exclaimed Luffy. When he looked up to see who it was, he found himself in a warm embrace. Shanks. You came. Get lost, Shanks said, and Luffy felt a wave of something. That was the first time he could say he was truly terrified of Shanks. He scared the Sea King away, and Luffy cried. Not out of joy or relief, but out of regret and guilt. Shanks. Hey. What's the deal, tough guy? Makino told us all about what happened in the bar. Thank you for your trust in us and for protecting her. But, Shanks. And what about your arm? Shanks' arms had been amputated from the shoulder down. It's only an arm. It's a small price to pay to ensure your safety. Let's get ourselves to the doctor now, shall we? Wah! That day, Luffy had cried himself to sleep. Oh, "I'm so sorry I couldn't find him," said the Makino. It was the crew's final day in the East Blue, and Luffy was nowhere to be found. "Don't worry, Makino," Shanks reassured her. Knowing him, he'll make his grand entrance soon enough. The crew had loaded their supplies, untied the lines from the bollards, and were ready to set sail for the Grand Line. "All right," gentled Shanks, and the ship's crew began to pull up the anchor. But suddenly, a voice interrupted them from above. "Shanks and the rest of you guys." Everyone looked up at the crow's nest and saw Luffy standing on the railing with a rope in his hand. He jumped down, swinging along the rope and giving everyone a heart attack at the same time, before landing on the steering wheel's back wall. "Pay attention, everyone," declared Luffy, grinning from ear to ear. "After seeing how strong you guys are, I'm going to train like hell to be just as strong as you guys when I go out to sea." The crew and the townspeople gathered on the docks stared at him in surprise and admiration, as Luffy continued his speech. "And that's not all, I'll get a crew way better than you all. And I'll get more treasure than you can imagine. Most importantly, I'm going to become king of the pirates. No, I'm going to be even bigger, even if it's just for a moment. I'll be greater than Roger ever was." Shanks listened to Luffy's words with a mix of amusement and curiosity. "Ho, is that so?" he chuckled. "Sounds like you have big plans, kid." Luffy nodded eagerly. "Yeah, and I'll even find Uta and bring her into my crew," he exclaimed. The Red Hair Pirates and Shanks himself flinched at the mention of Uta's name, and the pirate captain wore a solemn expression. "Uta, huh?" he muttered. Suddenly, Shanks had an idea. "How about you come down here, Luffy? I wanted to leave you with a gift." "Okay," said Luffy, jumping down in front of Shanks. "So, what's the deal?" he asked, feeling the itchiness of straw on his head. He looked up at Shanks and saw the captain's famous straw hat on his own head. "Why? Because, just as you have faith in us, I have faith in you," Shanks said, putting a hand on Luffy's shoulder. "Whether it's realizing your dreams or keeping this priceless hat safe." Luffy's eyes widened in amazement and gratitude, as he realized the significance of the gift. "Will I ever run into you guys again?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. Shanks smiled and lightly karate chopped Luffy's head. "Of course, we will. What kind of stupid question is that? And when you become a great pirate, you will return that hat, okay?" "MK," Luffy said, still overwhelmed by the moment. Luffy stood on the dock, waving goodbye to the Red Hair Pirates as they sailed away into the horizon. He clutched the straw hat tightly, feeling a surge of determination and excitement for the adventures that lay ahead. "Oh, it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since that day, isn't it, Mayor?" Makino asked, looking out over the ocean. "It certainly is," Whoop Slap replied, a hint of bitterness in his tone. "And to think that young boy is now setting sail to become a pirate from the very same spot." "I don't know, it seems pretty believable to me," Makino said, smirking. Whoop Slap groaned. "I hate how right you are, Makino." Luffy, now 17 years old, stepped forward and looked out over the ocean. "What a beautiful day," he said. "Birds singing, flowers blooming. I'm glad I set sail on a day like this." As he turned around, he saw a local sea king approaching. "Ah, it's you again," Luffy said, grinning. "I've been working on some new moves since we last met." Everyone who knew of Luffy's abilities braced themselves for a pillar of flame, but instead, Luffy retracted his fist, releasing it and stretching his arm to incredible lengths, and punched the Sea King. Buster Strike. The force of the punch sent the Sea King flying out of the water and onto the shore. "You can thank Vegapunk for that one," Luffy exclaimed, laughing. "I'm so excited," Luffy exclaimed. "I can't wait to meet my crew. And I've even got an idea for our flag. Watch out, world, because the next Pirate King is here." With that, Luffy set sail on his journey, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As he sailed, he stumbled upon a tiny boat with no crew, setting the stage for the grandest adventure these high seas have been witness to. Only a few hours had passed since Luffy set sail on his adventure, and already he faced his first challenge. "Yup. That's a whirlpool," he exclaimed, looking ahead at the massive swirling pool in front of him. Despite being in the relatively calm waters of East Blue, the whirlpool was large enough to be intimidating. Luffy knew he lacked the sailing skills to navigate out of it, but he had a trick up his sleeve, his devil fruit ability. "Man, I don't want to ditch this boat. It was a gift from old man Minamoto," Luffy thought to himself. He pondered for a few seconds before coming up with what he thought was a genius idea. She, I'm going to turn it into a submarine, he declared, grinning. Luffy quickly emptied the 2 barrels on board and touched both the barrels and the boat. In an instant, the boat transformed into a misshapen wooden egg-like shape. Luffy examined his handiwork and nodded in satisfaction. Now I'll coat it in hockey, just to be safe. And when I'm out, I'll put the boat back to normal. I'm amazing, he exclaimed, admiring his work. With his makeshift submarine ready, Luffy coated it in hockey and dove into the whirlpool. The swirling currents pulled and pushed him in all directions, but Luffy kept his cool and used his devil fruit powers to maneuver through the vortex. As he emerged on the other side, he reverted the boat back to its original form and continued on his journey, proud of his resourcefulness and determination. Luffy didn't have motion sickness, but being in that whirlpool convinced him that he did. Crap, I shouldn't have eaten such a big breakfast. Keep it in. If you throw up now you'll be stuck with it until you're out of this stupid whirlpool. Luffy's stomach and willpower were put to the test for several more minutes until he was shot out and landed on something. Fortunately, he's a tough guy, so the collision of his head and wood didn't hurt. His stomach, on the other hand. Blurg, not again. Fortunately, Luffy was able to create an opening for himself in order to relieve his insides. Before taking in his surroundings, he repaired the boat and restocked the barrels, the contents of which attacked him while he was in the spin cycle. He'd hit a cruise ship. Gurgle gurgle. Luffy looked down at his rumbling stomach, having thrown up his breakfast. All right, new mission, go find some food. He looked at the barrels and then remembered Makino's scoldings before he left about rationing. Find some grub that isn't in those barrels. He wrapped a rope around the stem and fused it to the ship's hull. Okay, stay right here, he said to the boat. He used his abilities to open a hole in the ship and close it immediately after entering. Oh, why me? Moaned a pink-haired boy. Do I really look like I was built for scouting? All by myself? What if I come across someone with a weapon? What do I do then? The young lad appears to have been tasked with finding any stragglers left on the ship and bringing them to the main hall. I'll just hide somewhere for a while and come back saying I couldn't find anyone. He kept walking until he came to a door on his right. Okay, this place is far enough away, he said as he moved to open the door. I'll stay here for the time being. He entered the room, and it was, indeed, a kitchen, but that wasn't what stopped him. It was the presence of a boy with a straw hat absolutely pigging out. What are you doing here? Pinkett inquired. What do Ike? Ishane. With food still in his mouth, the straw hat boy responded. Oi, why are you just standing there, Kobe? 3 more pirates make their way down the hall toward the kitchen. Oh, is this one of the kitchens? Another of the pirates asks. Finally. They all come to a halt for the same reason Kobe did. Hey, shitstain. Quit eating our food. A giant pirate with blue and white stripes walks toward Luffy, his fist raised. Only to be thrown across the room. Hey, didn't your mother teach you that it's rude to bother people when they're eating? With his fist raised and food still in his mouth, the boy responded. He swallowed his food and turned around to finish it. You have no idea who we are, damn it, damn kid, the 2 men yell as they raise their swords to Luffy's back. Watch out, warned Kobe as he covered his eyes. Die. But when the swords swung down and collided with Luffy's back, they both shattered. Except for Luffy, everyone was stunned. What the hell are you? Was all the blonde could say. Luffy turned around, his face stretched in unimaginable ways. And his smile was so big it could bite someone in half. Death, said the inhuman face. They ran so fast that they could run on water. Kobe, on the other hand, was paralyzed by fear. He was looking at Luffy from behind, but he could still see the way his face stretched. An SNKRT filled the air, interrupting the fear. He saw Luffy collapse to the floor in laughter all of a sudden. He was crying from laughing so hard. She. Did you see how fast they ran? She, says Luffy. Kobe was astounded that this was the same kid who had made that expression. Who exactly are you? I'm M. Luffy, just Luffy, the kid said, looking up at him. I'm the guy who's going to surpass Roger. Oh, Lady Alvida was having a fantastic day. Not only was the day beautiful, but her first catch was a big one. That is, until. Ah! She heard screams getting closer and closer until, in their haste, the two sources of the screams broke down a door. What exactly are you two clowns doing? I thought I told you to go find every kitchen and raid it for supplies. And where's the third one? Monster. Alvida swiftly struck both of them with her club. Stop fooling around. Alvida raised her club in preparation for another strike. We aren't. I swear. Yeah, we found the kitchen, but the monster killed Popoko in a single blow. When we hit it, our swords shattered. Look, they raised the hilts of the swords, revealing that the sword was indeed shattered. And its face stretched out, and said it was death, and it probably ate Kobe and Popoko. The crew surrounding them became uneasy. They may have dismissed it, but their swords were tangible proof of their claims. Alvida simply took in the information. Lead me to it. Oh, Roger? PPP Pirate King? Kobe was taken aback, his voice trembling with disbelief. This kid, Luffy, was strong, but the idea of him competing with emperors and the world government seemed far-fetched. Luffy, however, paid no attention to Kobe's outburst and started walking away. Wait. Luffy, was it? Kobe hurriedly caught up to him. That's right, Luffy confirmed. You can't be serious, Luffy, Kobe exclaimed, trying to make sense of it all. Yep, dead serious, Luffy replied nonchalantly. Do you realize how audacious that claim is? There are 4 emperors, the world government, marines, warlords, and countless other pirates. Not to mention the dangers of the Grand Line itself, Kobe reasoned, hoping to make Luffy see the reality of the situation. Luffy abruptly halted, leaving Kobe perplexed at first, but then a sense of relief washed over him. Perhaps his words had reached this young pirate, making him reconsider. Kobe was determined not to let anyone, stranger or not, throw their life away so easily. She. Luffy suddenly exclaimed, breaking the tension. I found it. He dashed to the end of the hall and drop-kicked the door, sending it flying off its hinges, revealing a massive food stockpile. Kobe was baffled, wondering how Luffy had managed to find this place. But instead of addressing his concerns, Luffy simply began to eat. Kobe remained motionless, staring at Luffy as he disregarded everything that had just been said. It seemed that finding something to satiate his hunger was more important to him than his own life. Frustrated, Kobe couldn't hold back any longer. Did you even hear a word I said? Kobe's anger surged as he confronted Luffy, unable to comprehend why sear life away so carelessly, especially after his own struggle for survival over the past 2 years. Every single word, yeah, Luffy replied calmly. Then why do you insist on pursuing the One Piece? Is it for wealth? Fame? Power? What possible reason could you have for throwing away your life? Kobe demanded an answer, his emotions raw. Freedom, Luffy stated simply, his conviction unwavering. If Luffy's previous disregard hadn't reset Kobe's brain, this declaration certainly did. Being a pirate isn't about gold, glory, or oppression. Those who do are just dirty fakers. It's about having the freedom to explore and discover the wonders of the world, embracing the thrill of adventure. And becoming the king of the pirates means being the freest of them all. That's why I want to do it. There's also a promise attached to it. Moreover, my true ambition can only be realized once I'm crowned king of the pirates. So, even if I have to give my life for my dreams, I won't have any regrets, Luffy explained, his words resonating with Kobe. Kobe fell silent, absorbing Luffy's words and reflecting on his own past 2 years of hardship. He could understand, on a profound level, Luffy's pursuit of freedom. After living as a virtual slave, survival being his sole focus, the concept of freedom consumed his thoughts. Tears welled up in his eyes as he absorbed the weight of Luffy's words. Why are you suddenly crying? Luffy approached Kobe, concerned. My dream, Kobe stuttered, sniffling. Before I was forced to become a pirate, my dream was to be a marine. But for the past 2 years, all I could think about was freedom. Do you think? Sniff. I can be free and become a marine? Of course, you can. Luffy reassured him. When pirates become well-known enough, there's an entire task force that keeps a close eye on their every move. Where are you going with this, Luffy? Kobe asked, curious about Luffy's intentions. When you reach your goal, Luffy emphasized, I want you to watch me, To witness me accomplishing my dream after you. Sorry if that sounded narcissistic. It sounded a lot more inspirational in my head. Luffy laughed sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. Kobe couldn't help but disagree. No, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Can you keep an eye on me as well? I know there are newscrews that provide pirate news coverage. I'll grow big enough that you'll see me in the news, and one day you'll read about how I became the new marine hero. Kobe exclaimed, his determination and optimism shining through. Luffy's trademark grin spread across his face. Okay, then it's a promise, Luffy said with a genuine smile. They approached each other and shook hands, sealing their pact. As a tribute, why don't we take down your boss? That's the first step towards your dream, isn't it? Kobe's face was initially filled with fear and dread, but it quickly transformed into a smile. A shaky but determined smile, focused on the future. Why yeah, today is the day that stinkin' old hag, CR smash. A deafening sound reverberated through the room, causing both Luffy and Kobe to turn their attention toward the source. The entire wall had been leveled, and through the settling dust and debris, Kobe recognized the silhouette of the intruder. LL Lady Alvida. What are you doing here? As the dust cleared, revealing Alvida's unappealing appearance and her lackeys, she pointed her mace at Kobe. You dirty rat. Alvida sneered at Kobe, her voice dripping with contempt. Then, her gaze shifted to Luffy, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. And you? You must be the bounty hunter Kobe is conspiring with to take my head, aren't you? Of course not, no. I would never dream of, Kobe stammered, trying to find a way to save himself. However, his focus shifted to Luffy, who stood confidently with crossed arms and a blank expression. It was as if Luffy was waiting for something. I would never dream of working for you for another second. Kobe's promise to Luffy had ignited a newfound courage within him. As a Marine, my first assignment will be to catch your ugly fat ass and lock you in the pig pen where you belong. Kobe, an enraged Alvida swung her club, aiming to strike Kobe with the force of a semi-truck. Eek! Kobe instinctively raised his arms to shield himself. He had completed his task, even if it meant risking his life. But he still had a long list of things he wanted to do. However, before he could contemplate further, the sound of metal meeting metal reverberated through the room. Kobe looked up, his eyes widening in astonishment. Luffy had positioned himself between Kobe and Alvida, with the impact denting the mace in the shape of Luffy's head. Way to go, Kobe, Luffy yelled, knocking Alvida's mace off his head and sending it flying out of her hands and into the ceiling. With incredible speed, Luffy struck Alvida, propelling her back and causing her to land on top of her goons. WWA, Kobe stammered, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. I can tell you're impressed even without turning around, Luffy said, addressing Kobe's astonishment. Kobe realized that even without seeing Luffy's face, he could sense Luffy's smugness and knew that Luffy had said something cool. Okay, I didn't hit her too hard, so she'll wake up any second now, Luffy explained, turning around to face Kobe. What? You threw her back, and that wasn't even your full power? Kobe exclaimed, still trying to process what had just happened. Pretty much, yeah. If you really want to see what I'm made of, let's get out of this cramped space. I hate fighting in small rooms, Luffy replied, grinning. Hold on tight. Luffy grabbed Kobe, and with a burst of fiery propulsion from his feet, they soared through multiple flights of stairs before landing on the deck. Oh, Alvida groaned, clutching her throbbing head as she struggled to rise to her feet. My head, she exclaimed, attempting to steady herself amidst the chaos. Once her balance returned, she glared back at her unconscious goons with disdain. That pathetic coward thinks he's invincible with a fancy bounty hunter by his side. But mark my words, when I get hold of them, I'll squeeze the life out of both their necks, she seethed, scanning her surroundings for any sign of the duo's whereabouts. Frustratingly, they seemed to have vanished without a trace. Her gaze then fell upon the wreckage strewn before her. Her attention was abruptly drawn upwards as a beam of light pierced through the debris above. Squinting, Alvida observed the floors above her, tracing the path her adversaries had taken. With a determined expression, she muttered under her breath, very well. Some her inner agility, she defied expectations and leapt from one floor to the next, utilizing ledges and any available footholds to aid her ascent. However, as she neared the main deck, the cacophony of shouts and groans grew louder and more chaotic. Just one more jump, Alvida whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. With a burst of energy, she vaulted from her current position and landed on the deck below. Yet, what met her eyes left her dumbfounded. Her crew members lay strewn about, either unconscious or frantically fleeing from an unseen force. Guillotine whip. A voice rang out behind her, and instinctively, she sprang into the air, narrowly evading the extended leg that was delivering devastating blows to those unfortunate enough not to have reacted in time. Returning to the ground, Alvida's landing shook the entire boat, causing it to sway under her considerable weight. "Damn, you've got quite the mouth, calling me heavy, huh?" she retorted, turning to face the person responsible for both the insult and the chaotic scene unfolding around her. Locking eyes with her nemesis, she spat out his name with venom, Strafut. The mere utterance carried with it a curse, laden with the promise of retribution. Oh, Luffy shot back with a smug grin. "You're pretty fast yourself, considering your size." "Hey, that's only natural, punk, M's with these acrobatic gifts," Alvida retorted, unyielding in her confidence. Without missing a beat, Luffy fired back, his words filled with curiosity. "Are all the mirrors on your ship broken? Or do you just have bad eyesight? Maybe it's both?" Kobe, though exhausted, observed the exchange and couldn't help but think, "I haven't known him for long, but I'm fairly certain that was genuine concern." He wore a fatigued but accepting expression on his face. "Grr," Alvida growled, astounded at how intensely she disliked this person. "Stop wasting time on trivial matters. Moreover, I have a few questions for you." Go ahead, shoot," Luffy responded, seemingly unfazed. "You consumed a devil fruit, didn't you?" Alvida inquired, her eyes narrowing. She, Luffy chuckled and confirmed, "Yes, I devoured the pyro fruit. It turned me into a pyro-human, a combination of fire and human. But that's not all, I've also merged with other substances. I'm a pyro-combinable metal diamond rubber human," Luffy proclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. "I see," Alvida continued, a cunning glint in her eyes. "Well, here's a proposition for you. Give me the diamond and Kobe, and I'll spare your life." "No way, fat lady, Kobe here is going to be the next hero of the Marines," Luffy retorted defiantly. "Ha! Now that's the funniest joke I've ever heard." Alvida burst into laughter, her booming voice echoing. She then turned her attention to Kobe. "Oi, Kobe. You're the sorriest sack of cowardly shit I've ever seen. The only reason I let you live thus far was out of pity. Do you seriously think you can become the next Garp, the rival of Gold Roger, the right-hand man of the Buddha himself?" Kobe's gaze fell to the ground as he replied meekly, "And no." Alvida grinned, satisfied with Kobe's response. However, before she could relish in her victory, Luffy interjected, cutting through the smugness in the air. "I'm going to be even greater than all of them. I'll be Kobe, champion of justice, the head of the Marines, and the rival of Luffy, the pirate who surpassed Roger." Alvida was momentarily speechless, her astonishment evident. She then erupted into laughter once again. Ha, 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 ha. Her laughter filled the air, and her bulging stomach seemed as though it might burst. "Kobe, if what you say is true, then your stupidity must be contagious. Luffy, was it? Do you honestly believe you can compete with those vying for that throne?" Luffy's response was calm but resolute. "I don't think so, I know so." Alvida smirked and replied, "That makes me feel a lot better." Kobe was perplexed by her comment, unable to fully grasp its meaning. "That means even if I don't kill you now, someone else will eventually," Alvida declared with a smug smile. Kobe was about to interject, but Luffy stopped him. "You haven't even seen me at my strongest. How can you judge me?" "Fine," Alvida said, dropping her club. "I'll take your hardest hit head on, and if I survive, I get to kill you and Kobe." "What? You can't be, okay. Serious? What?" Kobe looked at Luffy, utterly puzzled. "Trust me," Luffy reassured Kobe. "If you say so," Kobe replied, placing his faith in Luffy's words. "Haha, that's fine. I'm looking forward to." Alvida's sentence was cut short as Luffy disappeared in an instant, leaving her in a state of shock. And just as quickly as he vanished, he reappeared right in front of Alvida, his arm already stretched out. Alvida. It was only when he called her name that both Kobe and Alvida realized his new position. Strike. Luffy's powerful blow struck Alvida's solar plexus, causing her body to contort and stretch before being launched into the air. By now, Kobe had lost count of how many times Luffy had defied his expectations. Spoilers, Kobe, Luffy chimed in, breaking the silence. Startled, Kobe snapped out of his daze. That wasn't even my strongest attack, Luffy boasted with a smug grin. Really? Kobe exclaimed, surprised at the revelation. Yeah, if I went all out, she would have been sent flying in multiple directions, Luffy admitted, his face turning slightly green as he recalled the immense power he possessed. Both Kobe and Luffy felt a wave of nausea wash over them as they pondered the implications. Perhaps I shouldn't have eaten so much, Luffy muttered, covering his stomach and mouth with his hands. Thankfully, their moment was interrupted by the sound of cannonball explosions and whistling. Turning their attention to the scene, they noticed 3 marine ships closing in. Oh snap, it's the Navy. This is perfect timing for you, Kobe. You should go over and meet them. As for me, I'm getting out of here because, well, I'm a pirate, Luffy declared, dashing to the other side of the deck and leaping off. Wait. Take me with you. Kobe pleaded desperately. I can't join the Navy like this. They'll arrest me. Kobe suddenly felt a firm grip on his shirt. Looking down, he saw Luffy's stretched out arm and hand-grabbing hold. I didn't think this through, Kobe admitted to himself, realizing the consequences of his impulsive decision. Nami couldn't contain her excitement as she discovered the treasures worth 27 million berries in the hull of the Miss Love Duck. Her only regret was not bringing a larger boat. The weight of the treasure made it feel like the boat was on the verge of sinking. Nevertheless, Nami brushed off the concern. She was puzzled by the fact that this boat was tied to a rope attached to the side of the cruise ship. But she didn't dwell on it. She had what she needed and didn't need any more answers. Suddenly, a tremendous impact rocked the water, causing it to shoot up around her boat, threatening to capsize it. Startled, Nami looked around and saw a boy in a straw hat who had landed in the boat beside her. She was about to unleash her anger on him when she heard screaming from above. Wait! Take me along. I can't join the Navy in this condition, they'll arrest me instead. The voice pleaded. Fine. The boy in the straw hat replied nonchalantly as if his mother had just asked him to take out the trash. In a mind-boggling display of elasticity, his arm stretched like rubber, effortlessly grabbing the poor boy and pulling him into the boat, resulting in a crash. Owie! Exclaimed the pink-haired boy. Hee, sorry about that, but I'm in a hurry, the straw hat boy apologized, bowing slightly. Now, Kobe, hold on tight. He swiftly turned around, and flames erupted from his hands, propelling the boat forward at breakneck speed. Nami could only watch, bewildered, as the orange-haired woman was left in their wake, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. Ha, Kobe exclaimed, finally catching his breath after screaming for his life for 3 minutes. Ha. Luffy had to catch his breath after laughing at how loud Kobe screamed. That wasn't funny at all. What if I slipped and fell? Kobe yelled at Luffy. Alright. But you should have seen the expression on your face. Luffy came to a halt when he saw how red Kobe was from both anger and embarrassment. Sorry about that. I should have handled it more carefully. They sat silently, the air filled with an awkward silence. After a few moments, Luffy broke the silence with a snicker. PFF'd. What now, Luffy? Kobe asked, expecting a teasing response. Sorry, I was just thinking back on what you said on the boat, said the Straw Hat Boy. Luffy spoke up before Kobe could ask. Kobe, champion of justice, head of Marines. Waving his hands around, Luffy said in an announcer's voice. Kobe's face turned bright red with embarrassment. Stop, he swatted at Luffy's hands. I'm not mocking you, dude. So relax, but I'm curious. Did you come up with those titles on the spur of the moment, or did you have them in mind? Luffy inquired. Kobe sat there in silence, debating whether or not to respond. No, I was thinking about them before all of this, Kobe replied. Pirates attacked my grandfather's island when he was a child. Many people died, but the Marines saved the majority of the survivors. As a result, My grandfather became a Marine. He later had my father, but when my father was in his teens, my grandfather was killed by pirates while escorting cargo. My father despised pirates even before he died, and after that, he became a fervent supporter of the Marines. When I was born, he got me into it as well. I'm sorry to hear that. Luffy apologized for touching a sensitive spot. Don't be, it's fine. My dad didn't have me until he was in his 30s, and I never met my grandpa, so I don't feel too strongly about it. Kobe tried to reassure Luffy, but Luffy only became more depressed. Dang, sorry for making it more awkward, but I can't imagine life without my grandfather, Luffy informed Kobe. Do you have a close relationship with your grandfather? I'm as close as I can get. What exactly do you mean, Luffy? Luffy pondered for a moment, unsure of how to express himself. My gramps, just like yours, is a Marine. Wait, actually, yeah, let me finish. My gramps is a Marine, but as a result, he was always away. And, you know, he may have almost killed me a couple of times. Wait, what? But he's still family, Luffy concluded. No, you're not just gonna skip that part, are you? Kobe asked furiously. What part? The part you said, he may have almost killed me a couple of times like it was nothing. Oh, geez, cool down. I'm still here, aren't I? Besides, it only made me stronger, Luffy said, striking a bodybuilder pose. If you say so, but you are pretty strong, so I can't deny the results, said Kobe with apprehension. Damn right I am. I can knock out a Sea King with a single strike, Luffy announced to the world. Was it a big Sea King? Kobe asked. Technically, it was big, Luffy adopted a bright red blush. What do you mean by technically, Luffy? Well, it was pretty small for a Sea King, but any Sea King compared to anything is pretty big, right? Come on, man, let me have my victory. Hee hee, okay, fine. Kobe was relieved that the mood had improved from before. But what was the context of that fight? Why did you fight it in the first place? It was our local Sea King, Buster. You have a local Sea King? And you named it Buster? Yeah, 'cause if you were in anything smaller than a galleon, he'd bust up your ship, said Luffy, putting extra emphasis on the bust part. Get it? Get it? Yeah, I got it, Luffy. Kobe was pinching the bridge of his nose. He then looked at Luffy with a curious expression on his face. In all seriousness, dude, what are you made of? You mentioned diamond, metal, and rubber, but to be honest, that raised more questions than it answered. Well, Luffy pondered for a moment, trying to make sense of everything. Do you know who Dr. Vegapunk is? I mean, who doesn't? Alright, so I was sort of his student. What? Kobe couldn't believe his ears. It seemed that with every second he spent around Luffy, his worldview would shatter just a bit more than it did the last time. Yeah, he's cool and all, I get it, but did you have to scream that loud? Yes. Do you somehow not realize how important Dr. Vegapunk is? He single-handedly advanced the entire world 50 to 100 years in technology, medicine, and anything else you can think of in the last decade. First and foremost, I don't need anyone else to tell me that Vegapunk is amazing. But Vegapunk wasn't always a lone wolf. Before they parted ways, he had his partner Caesar Clown. And second, to answer your first question. Luffy drew Kobe in again. He and I collaborated on several projects. Because these were our projects, the results were never mass-produced. And the three things that make me who I am come from those projects, he informed Kobe. He came to a halt and extended his arm over the boat. A single pulsating wave of purple crystal appeared on the bottom side of his arm. Then, as blue and pink particles arrived, a golden sheet of metal, a purple gemstone, and a dull black slime all fell into the boat, with the slime almost bouncing out. Whoa, there, thankfully Luffy caught it and then held it up to Kobe. This right here is called Gomu. Here, hold it, he handed it to Kobe. Whoa, it's so stretchy, Kobe said while pulling it as far as he could. Gomu is made from a combination of rubber, plastic, resin, and other polymers. Don't mess around too much, or it might bounce over to a neighboring ocean. Ha ha ha. You're kidding, right? Kobe asked nervously. Well, let's just say if you saw the prototype, Flubber, in action, you'd probably believe Gomu could go to the moon. After hearing what Luffy said, Kobe promptly returned it to him, and Luffy merged it back into his body using his devil fruit. This is Lonsdaleite, Luffy says as he leans down to pick up the gemstone. This is essentially Diamond's bigger, tougher brother, he says to Kobe. It's the world's hardest substance. Though that statement prompted a few questions in Kobe's mind. If you're right, how come Lonsdaleite isn't more valuable than diamond or gold? Hey, you're pretty smart, aren't you? Luffy commented. The answer is that Lonsdaleite cannot form naturally on Earth. You've heard that if you put enough pressure and heat on coal, it will turn into a diamond, right? Yeah, if you put coal through even more pressure and heat, it'll turn into Lonsdaleite. Oh, I see, and the Earth can't provide that much heat and pressure, can it? You're right, Kobe. Even with my devil fruit, which shoots fire, rearranges things, and removes impurities, it took forever to make this thing. Also, that whole coal to diamond is a myth. The Lonsdaleite was reabsorbed by him. And finally, Lugarite, Luffy proudly displayed this one. Like Gomu, this was entirely created by me and Vegapunk. It took a long time to remove all of the impurities, heat all of the metals, steels, and other materials to just the right temperature without losing integrity, and find the right ratios between all of the materials. It was difficult but rewarding. It is the toughest and most powerful substance. I even got to name this one. Yeah, I was going to ask that. I can see where Gomu and Flubber came from, but what inspired this one? Kobe inquired. So, you take the Lu from Luffy, the Ga from Vega, and add right, because it sounds super cool in Metal Y, and boom, Lugarite. He looks so proud of his name, Kobe thought as Luffy applied the Lugarite to his body. It's the ultimate pairing. If something tries to hit or cut me, an attack will not be able to harm me, and if it's really strong, my Gomu, and it'll be as if nothing happened. Luffy said this while striking a victorious pose. Wow, that makes so much sense. Kobe, on the other hand, had one more question. What's up, Luffy? Yeah, you said Lonsdaleite was extremely tough, but Lugarite was extremely hard. What's the difference? Luffy smiled nostalgically. In this context, the difference between hardness and toughness is. Oh, and then I told my brother, that's why you need to know the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. Aha, ha, ha. Luffy and Kobe were both in tears from laughter. Their conversation had gradually shifted from an educational discussion to two good friends simply talking and hanging out. Oh, we're here. Luffy turned to see what Kobe was referring to. He saw a relatively large island with power plant-shaped towers scattered around it and cannons protruding from them, as well as a town covering the entire island. But it was the symbol on those towers that stood out. Marines? Are you going to turn me in, Kobe? No, not at all. Look, Luffy, I'm here to apply for a job as a Marine, and I brought you here because you're not a well-known pirate, making it easier for you to restock. Oh, why didn't you say that earlier? Let's go, Kobe, Luffy said, excitedly grabbing Kobe by the collar. And with that, the two friends hurried towards the island, eager to see what awaited them there. Oh, they strolled through the bustling town, their hearts set on finding assistance, be it in the form of help, money, food, or anything that could ease their predicament. Man, this is hopeless. Thanks anyway, Kobe, Luffy sighed, trying to uplift his companion's spirits. Kobe nodded reluctantly. Alright, let's head towards the marine base, then. As they approached the marine base, Kobe couldn't help but notice the fearful expressions on the faces of the townspeople. They either flinched in terror or wore grim countenances, as if death itself loomed before them. Strange, Kobe mumbled. Perhaps there's a notorious criminal at the base, and that's why they're all scared to go near it. You might be onto something there, Kobe, Luffy agreed. Continuing their journey towards the marine base, their path was interrupted by the resounding barks of a massive wolf. Intrigued, they decided to follow the sound instead of heading straight to the base. Arriving at the source of the commotion, they discovered a crowd huddled outside a restaurant, where the barking echoed from within. Driven by Luffy's insatiable curiosity, the two adventurers pushed past the onlookers and stepped into the restaurant, only to be astounded by what they beheld. Inside, a boy in a purple suit, with a peculiar haircut, sat with his feet propped up on the table. He was surrounded by an array of delectable dishes and flanked by two imposing bodyguards. Yet, it was the sight of a colossal black wolf about to make a table its chew toy that captured their attention. Wow, that thing is massive. Kobe blurted out. "It's pretty average," Luffy nonchalantly replied. Perplexed, Kobe questioned, "What do you mean?" Luffy glanced at Kobe and then at the people who had overheard their conversation, their gazes fixed on him with a mix of astonishment and curiosity. "My teacher insisted that I study biology, engineering, physics, and anything else related to those subjects. All the world's species and their physiology are connected to those fields. I happen to have a fantastic memory, so I'm like a walking encyclopedia," Luffy explained to both the onlookers and Kobe. Suddenly, a young girl caught their attention. "No! Stop right now!" The girl grabbed a broom and began fiercely striking the wolf, which dwarfed her in size and weight. "Rika, stop!" A woman, presumably her mother, intervened, pulling her daughter's arm back. "Yes, listen to your mother, and don't bother my pet," the arrogant blonde boy scolded. "Shut up! My mom and I work hard to keep this place going. I don't care if you're the captain's son. I won't let you destroy it," the girl vehemently retorted. "You spoiled brat. Pet, attack," the blonde commanded, pointing at the mother-daughter duo. Shielding her daughter in her embrace, the mother braced herself as the wolf charged towards them. Suddenly, the wolf was forcefully slammed into the wall, leaving an imprint of a foot on its body. "What the?" exclaimed the boy, his gaze fixed on the newcomer standing amidst the chaos, his leg still raised as if he had just delivered a powerful kick. "What have you done?" the boy fumed. "I made your dog sit." "Duh," Luffy casually replied. "Do you even know who I am? I am Helmeppo, Captain Axehand, Morgan's son." Helmeppo attempted to resume his speech, only to have Luffy interrupt him by planting his foot square in the middle of his face, propelling him out of the restaurant. Helmeppo-sama, his two bodyguards rushed to his side, lifting him up. "Ouch! That hurt. I wasn't even done talking," Helmeppo screamed, clutching his broken nose in pain. Luffy pointed to a sign next to him, capturing everyone's attention. It clearly says, "Service animals only. Go home and stop bothering people. And if you don't..." Luffy clenched his fist threateningly. "Eek!" Helmeppo scampered away, terror evident in his eyes. "Now that's taken care of," Luffy began, only to be abruptly interrupted. Luffy turned around to find a horde of enraged townspeople approaching him, their glares filled with rage and murderous intent. "Wait!" The crowd's attention shifted to the bar's owner, the mother of the young girl. "He's just an outsider who had no idea what he was doing. Besides, didn't he save me and my daughter?" "Ririka, listen!" One of the men interjected. "We could have overlooked the incident with the dog, but striking Helmeppo, Morgan won't let this slide." "Hold on a second." Kobe's voice broke through the tension. "Morgan, he's a Marine, right? Why is everyone so terrified of him?" he inquired. A long tired sigh echoed from an older gentleman who had found a seat to rest upon. "It's a long story," he said, motioning for Kobe and Luffy to join him. The man proceeded to enlighten them about the once respected former captain, Morgan. However, after his retirement, a new captain took his place. The very man named Morgan. He imposed exorbitant taxes on the townspeople, which only grew more burdensome with each passing year. But that wasn't the end of their plight. Morgan ruled with an iron fist, resorting to merciless punishments and taking countless lives among the town's friends and families. "My daddy was one of them," Rika added, her voice filled with sorrow, resonating with the pain the townspeople had been forced to endure. Kobe observed the anguish etched on their faces, their sorrow silently borne, for fear of the repercussions that awaited them should they dare to rebel. "How dreadful," Kobe murmured, empathizing with their suffering. "All right, I've made up my mind," Luffy declared with an earnest smile, capturing everyone's attention. "I'm going to take him down." "You can't be serious. He's defeated pirates like Kuro of 1,000 Plans, Alex the Impaler, and Andrew the Bloodied, among others. What makes you think you can beat him?" one of the townspeople retorted incredulously. "Because I'm strong," Luffy responded calmly, his conviction shining through. He strode through the crowd, making his way toward the Marine base. "Luffy," Kobe called out, trying to catch up. "Luffy, Morgan has nothing in common with Alvida," Kobe reasoned desperately. "I know," Luffy replied, turning to face Kobe. "It's just that this time, instead of one person, it's an entire town." Kobe was left speechless and slightly embarrassed. Even if he were in Luffy's shoes, he would have hesitated. But Luffy treated it as if it were just another everyday endeavor. "You can join me if you want, Kobe," Luffy offered warmly, slipping off his slippers as flames ignited beneath his feet, propelling him towards a statue atop the main base. "Oh, isn't it magnificent, soldier?" Captain Morgan grinned. "Yes, Captain Morgan," the soldier replied dutifully. Today marked the culmination of Captain Morgan's year-long project, the completion of his grand statue. He had meticulously overseen every detail of its construction, dealing with any obstacles along the way. Standing at the base of the tower, he reveled in the glory of his creation, surrounded by his loyal soldiers. But amidst the celebration, his attention was drawn to a humiliated figure approaching him. His own son, Helmeppo, battered and lacking the wolfish demeanor his father had instilled in him, pleaded for justice. "Father, I want you to punish someone for me," Helmeppo exclaimed. "Can't you see I'm preoccupied?" Morgan dismissed his son's plea. "But he struck me. Even you have never struck me before," Helmeppo lamented. Morgan's otherwise fantastic day was now marred by his son's intrusion. "Let me remind you why I have never laid a hand on you," Morgan retorted, his fist connecting with Helmeppo's face. "You are not worth the effort." Silence fell upon the onlookers as they witnessed Helmeppo sprawled on the ground. Suddenly, their attention shifted upward, captivated by a figure soaring through the sky, flames dancing on his feet. This figure aimed straight at Morgan's statue. Ash, the statue, symbolizing Morgan's power, shattered into countless pieces, courtesy of the flying intruder. "Hey, Morgan, take a good look. That'll be you in just a few moments," the daring boy proclaimed. "Kill him. Fire all your guns. Kill that little shit," Morgan bellowed in fury. Luffy soared through the air, but his flight was interrupted by a hail of bullets that rained down upon him. "It's dangerous to play with guns, you know," Luffy declared, halting all the bullets midair. "Especially when I'm around." The bullets then reversed their trajectory, hurtling back towards their origin, creating a storm of metal. "Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow!" cried the soldiers as they were pelted by their own bullets. "Why aren't we dead?" one bewildered soldier wondered aloud. "Because I returned them with the force of BB bullets," Luffy explained nonchalantly. The crowd turned their attention to the source of the voice. In the blink of an eye, Luffy had closed the gap between himself and the ground. "Is that a devil fruit power?" Morgan questioned in awe. "The treasure of the ocean?" another soldier marveled. "I had no idea they were real. I've heard those who consume devil fruits become walking disasters. They can breathe fire and summon tsunamis. I ate the pyro fruit. I'm a fire-controlling, disassembling-reassembling human," Luffy replied, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Allow me to demonstrate." Luffy placed his hand on the ground, causing it to shatter and reshape, launching a powerful attack against the soldiers or knocking them aside. Morgan, however, leapt over the onslaught, landing unscathed. "Well, aren't you strong?" Luffy mocked. "I'll have your heart," Morgan threatened, swinging his axe arm downward, cleaving the ground. Yet, Luffy effortlessly evaded the strike, while Morgan closed in on him. They engaged in a fierce exchange of blows, but while Morgan poured every ounce of his strength into attacking the boy, Luffy held back, growing bored. Fire! Unexpectedly, Luffy was caught off guard as gunshots erupted from behind him. Reacting instinctively, Luffy replicated his earlier move, sending all the bullets back to their shooters without even glancing in their direction. "Fire those pea shooters all you want, you'll never hit me," Luffy smirked confidently. "He's too strong, Captain Morgan. We can't defeat him," one soldier expressed, echoing the sentiments of many. Captain Morgan paused his assault, contemplating their words. "Is that so?" he questioned with dangerous calmness. "All of you cowards who were whining earlier should shoot yourselves in the head. Traitors and defeatists wearing my uniform will not be tolerated," Morgan declared with chilling authority. "On my command, fire." Kachik, 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 Kachik. Luffy turned around, witnessing the soldiers aiming their rifles at their own heads. "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Luffy panicked, unleashing a torrent of flames that severed all the soldiers' weapons. "Hey, I'm your enemy. Try executing me." Luffy extended his rubbery arm, delivering a powerful punch to Morgan's jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. "Oh, I will," Morgan growled, wiping the blood from his mouth. "I'll relish every second of it." He swung his axe again, but Luffy skillfully evaded the strike, which tore through everything behind him. Morgan continued his relentless assault, showing no regard for human lives. However, Luffy countered with a barrage of punches, knocking Morgan down. "Captain Morgan. He's being pummeled." Luffy seized Morgan by the collar, raising his fist threateningly. "You and your wretched navy are crushing Kobe's dreams," he bellowed, his fist poised to strike. "Stop!" Luffy's fist froze in midair. But then he delivered the punch anyway. "I said stop, you idiot." Luffy turned to see Kobe being held hostage by Helmeppo. "One wrong move and Four Eyes here gets a bullet in the head. Hee, blink, and I'll shoot," Helmeppo taunted, believing he had regained the upper hand. "Hey Luffy," Kobe called out, interrupting the tense standoff. "I witnessed the whole thing. Don't let these S-bags win because of me. If I die here, so be it," Kobe declared, his gaze filled with determination. A smile tugged at Luffy's lips. "You're a good kid, Kobe," he began, but then shifted his focus to Kobe and Helmeppo. "Hey, I told you not to move, or I'd shoot." Helmeppo's smugness gave way to fear and panic. "However, that's precisely why this can't end here for you. You have a bright future ahead," Luffy stated, removing his iconic straw hat and pulling his fist back. Meanwhile, Morgan rose to his feet, gripping his injured arm tightly. "You've assaulted a Navy officer," Morgan said calmly, his voice laced with fury. "Kill him, father," Helmeppo screamed in desperation. "Luffy watch," Kobe yelled a warning, but Luffy's mind flashed back to the events aboard the ship. "Helmeppo." Morgan swung his axe downward, aiming to strike. Yet, in the process, both the axe and his arm shattered. "Arg!" Punch. Luffy's blow sent Helmeppo flying, rendering him unconscious. He then turned his attention to Morgan, who knelt on the ground, clutching his broken arm. Morgan's strike. With a final strike, Luffy incapacitated Morgan, removing his jaw guard in the process. "No way. The captain has been defeated. Morgan's reign of terror is over." The soldiers stood in stunned silence, witnessing their once mighty captain's defeat. "If anyone else wants to capture me, go ahead and try," Luffy declared to the crowd. The soldiers exchanged glances. "Woohoo, we're free. Morgan's tyranny is at an end, hooray for the Navy." Luffy approached Kobe, a smirk playing on his lips. "HMPH, they're happy we defeated their captain," he remarked. "Do you understand what this means, Luffy?" Kobe asked, excitement gleaming in his eyes. "Yup. It means these guys are good. Captain Morgan was merely using fear to control them," Luffy responded, affirming Kobe's earlier question. "Oh, phew, lady, this is some good food," exclaimed Luffy with a mouthful. "Are you sure you don't want us to pay?" he inquired between bites. "Of course, it's the least I can do for you heroes," replied Ririka, a grateful smile on her face. "But I didn't do anything, ha ha ha," Kobe admitted with a hint of defeat. "But all the Marines were saying how brave you were," Rika pointed out, trying to boost Kobe's confidence. "Are really?" Kobe's eyes widened, his self-doubt fading away. "Yeah, so, Luffy, are you leaving now?" Kobe asked, curiosity filling his voice. I'm planning to stay in the East Blue for a while longer. I can't venture into the Grand Line without a crew," Luffy explained with a wide grin. "Are you going to be recruiting?" "Yeah. Why?" Would YFY shot back, half-jokingly. But Kobe's expression turned solemn. "Wait, actually?" He hesitated. No, it's just." Kobe took a moment to gather his thoughts. "You know, I've always wanted to be a Marine, but when I see people like Morgan, it makes me question the concept of justice within the organization," Kobe explained, his voice tinged with frustration. "I wanted to join the Marines to bring about justice, but when there are individuals like him who abuse their power, it's disheartening." Hey, snap snap snap. Luffy snapped his fingers, drawing Kobe's attention. "Don't give up on your dreams just because there are a few bad apples," Luffy chastised Kobe, his voice filled with determination. "Here's how I see it," Luffy continued. "There are all kinds of chefs out there, ranging from terrible to unbelievably amazing. Just because a couple of chefs can't cook doesn't mean the rest of them can't. When talented chefs teach and share their knowledge with the less skilled ones, the bad chefs improve and eventually become great chefs. Do you understand what I'm saying, Kobe? Yeah, you're right, thanks, Luffy. Kobe expressed his gratitude with a bow. It's nothing, Luffy replied, casually scratching his head. Hey, Luffy, how do you always stay so upbeat? Kobe asked, genuinely curious. You always find a way to smile even in seemingly hopeless situations. Well, not hopeless so far, but you get what I'm saying. Luffy looked at Kobe, his gaze blank for a moment before a nostalgic smile spread across his face. Let me tell you something, Luffy began, his voice tinged with memories. When I was just a kid, someone told me that life is a constant battle. But it's not just any battle. Life throws obstacles your way to break your will and steal your happiness. However, if you can maintain a positive attitude in the face of adversity, you'll come out on top. Every single day is a victory. And I despise losing. Luffy's smug smile widened. As for the constant smiling, well, I've smiled so much that I can't even frown anymore. Knock knock, excuse me. The lieutenant opened the door, catching the attention of everyone inside. You, with the straw hat, you're a pirate, right? The lieutenant inquired. Luffy nodded. I may not have a crew yet, but I'm gonna move up in the world real soon, Luffy confidently replied. You saved this base and the town from Morgan's tyranny, and we truly cannot express how grateful we are, but, you're still a pirate, and we can't house pirates. We have to ask you to leave, but as a token of our gratitude, we won't report you to the Navy. You Navy pigs. You hated Morgan as much as we did. They're your saviors, too. Okay. Luffy stood up and pushed his chair in. I'll be leaving then, he said, turning around and bowing to Ririka. Thank you, ma'am, for the food. As Luffy began walking away, Kobe spoke under his breath, you're leaving already? The lieutenant turned to Kobe and asked, are you not leaving with him? Kobe pondered his response while Luffy continued walking away, and then he remembered Luffy's words about never giving up on his dreams. I'm not with him, Kobe said, tears welling up in his eyes. Excuse me, Straw Hat, the lieutenant called out. Yes? Is that true? Duh? Isn't that obvious? I'd never let a weakling like him join my crew, Luffy retorted, catching everyone off guard. It's seriously insulting to think someone like him could keep up with me. Hey, do you know what he did for the past 2 years? Luffy, what are you doing? A million thoughts ran through Kobe's head before he realized what Luffy was trying to do. He was shut up, Kobe punched Luffy, but it felt like punching a wall. Why you little? Luffy punched Kobe back, and their fists continued to clash. Take that. And this, enough, stop disturbing the peace. You aren't friends, please, leave this town now, the lieutenant shouted, trying to calm the situation. Was this his plan? Goad me into attacking him? Kobe thought while on the ground. He did it again, in the end, I still needed his help, am I that helpless? If I don't depend on myself from now on, then I'm just a loser. Please let me join the Navy, sir, I'll be a cabin boy or anything, but just let me join, Kobe shouted, his voice filled with determination, as he bowed 90 degrees. I'm gonna do it, Lieutenant, I don't think that's a good idea. I still don't trust him. Pirates have planted spies in the past. We should do a thorough background check on him, a soldier spoke up, expressing his concerns. Kobe could only look on in shock and horror. I'm no pirate, I'm gonna be a Navy officer, Kobe exclaimed, pouring all his emotions into his words, determined to prove himself. The lieutenant carefully observed Kobe. Many of my fellow sailors have been killed by pirates. Don't take being a sailor lightly. You're accepted, the lieutenant finally said, acknowledging Kobe's determination. Why yes sir. Thank you very much, sir, Kobe expressed his gratitude. Oh, I hope they didn't see right through me, Luffy pondered. Well, this is a good time to leave anyway, Luffy thought to himself, changing the subject. Everyone hates me for assaulting Kobe. That is how things should be. People shouldn't be looking up to pirates, he continued, reflecting on the situation. Elu Luffy, Kobe called out, his voice filled with gratitude and emotion. Luffy turned to face Kobe, and then Kobe suddenly struck a salute. Tears welled up in Kobe's eyes. Many thanks for everything, I have been so happy I met you. I'll never forget what you've done for me, He expressed his heartfelt appreciation. "Hey, a pirate being saluted by a marine," Luffy muttered to himself. "We'll meet again, Kobe," he yelled out for Kobe to hear. 10 Shun. FWIP. Huh? Kobe turned around to see all the soldiers also saluting Luffy, and all the townspeople cheering and waving goodbye to him. "You've got a good friend, sailor," the lieutenant commented. "Yes, sir," Kobe replied, filled with pride. "Now it's against regulations to salute pirates like we just did. As punishment, we won't get any dinner for a week." "Yes, sir," the soldiers replied, accepting their punishment without hesitation. Luffy stared at the sail's town as it disappeared from his sight and then turned around to lie on his back. That was all fun and all, but I kinda wish I had stronger opponents to fight," Luffy remarked, expressing his desire for more challenging battles. "OCRAAASH, see Commander Kabaji. Why are you here when you should be in the Grand Line?" stammered one of the crew members. "I was curious about the state of my Division 8. And it seems it's doing quite poorly," replied Kabaji. "I've given you 6 months, and in all that time, you've only accumulated 97 million berries. How pitiful. But you have to admit, for East Blue standards, that's impressive to Buggy," defended the crew member. "Buggy." Kabaji's expression turned furious as he swiftly slashed the man through the heart. "I can't believe I'm in charge of such cretins. Pay attention," Kabaji's voice boomed, capturing the attention of the other men. They listened intently, as if their lives depended on it. "You will refer to your leader by his title. Emperor Buggy. Is that clear?" Kabaji demanded. "Sir, yes," they all responded in unison. "Sir, sir, sir? What is it that has you so worked up, Barrelman?" Kabaji asked. Sir, you can see Commander Moji on the horizon," replied Barrelman nervously. "What?" Kabaji grabbed the telescope and examined it. "What did I do to deserve this? Damn it," he muttered, feeling frustrated by the situation. "Oh, and what about that criminal Kobe mentioned at the Marine base?" Luffy whined as he continued to speak. "I wish I could find another crewmate by now. A couple of years before the present." Ha, ha, ha. "What in the world are you?" Roronoa Zoro, bloodied and bruised, yelled at Age. The opponent, an iron giant standing 84 feet, 25 meters, tall, knelt to get a better look at his human adversary. "What? Are you going to complain about your recently broken winning streak?" The giant's voice resonated, a smirk adorning his face. "I thought you were seeking a challenge. Perhaps I should have held back, after all, to spare your pride." "No," Zoro responded, refusing to let his defeat dampen his spirit. It was his first loss since Kuina's passing, and he wanted to understand what his opponent was truly after. "I can tell you defeated me even without resorting to that freakish ability of yours. Even without it, I'm sure you would have beaten me. Going back on my word would jeopardize my reputation and honor as a swordsman. I just want to know what you're up to." The Iron Giant's form diminished, revealing a man standing over Zoro. "It's called a devil fruit, pirate hunter," the man explained as he reached down to retrieve his fallen hat. "Though it would make less sense if you didn't know what it was, let alone experienced one." He dusted off the plumed bicorn with his gloved hand. "If it's any consolation, you not only knocked off my bicorn but forced me to use it in the first place." "You can't be serious right now," Zoro muttered, his disbelief evident. "On the contrary, I've fought men who accomplished much more but inflicted far less damage," the mysterious figure responded, donning his bicorn once again. "I have the perfect codename in mind for you, Mr. 6. Don't you think the number of the beast is fitting for a man who fights like one?" "I don't care what you call me," Zoro replied, his resolve firm. "I'll join your organization on one condition. We'll have a rematch every year, and the year I defeat you will be the year I leave." "Those are reasonable terms," the new boss agreed, extending a helping hand to Zoro. "Now that you've given me my codename, how should I address you?" Zoro asked, finally taking note of the man's unusual attire. His most distinctive feature was his masked, hawk-nosed face. "You can call me." Zoro paused, realizing that despite this man's eccentric appearance, he saw a glimpse of strength within him. "Mr. Zero."